A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We start another O-level paper. This is the June 23 paper 2-2 which was held in Lahore, Pakistan. So I hope everybody is helped through this paper and they can go through the mistakes that they made in this exam. This exam was for 1 hour 45 minutes. As everybody knows, the timing has remained the same, but essay questions have been removed from this. So we're going to deal with the first paper which came for this exam in June 2023. Table 1.1 lists 3 of the gases present in the atmosphere. Complete table 1.1 to state the percentage of each gas in the atmosphere. So you could have written anything between 20 and 21 or between 0.03 to 0.04 and 78 to 79. So any of these, but I've just given one. I'm not giving you the both which were allowed in the mark scheme. Then coming to the B part of the question, some foods are packed in a sealed container that contains a mixture of the same gases with percentages that are different from those found in the atmospheric air. Figure 1.1 shows a diagram of food packaged in this way: sealed container, mixture of gases and food. The method of food packaging slows down decomposition of the food. Slows down decomposition of the food. What does the decomposition need? Bacteria and fungi, and they need the oxygen of the air to respire and release energy. Suggest how the percentage of one gas named in table 1.1 is changed when used to package food in this way. Now, as we looked at it, the decomposition had to be stopped. So the bacteria and fungi need oxygen. So if you decrease the oxygen, then there will be no decomposition. Or if you increase the carbon dioxide, then carbon dioxide cannot be used by the plant. So that is going to, of course, also decrease. And if you increase the nitrogen. So any of these would have, one of these was, you only needed 1 mark. And so any out of these 3, you only have to give me one of them. Explain how this change will slow down decomposition of the food. So naturally the bacteria, the fungi or the microorganisms you can use, or you can use the word decomposers, will either you will say no respiration, or you'll say less respiration, and less what? Aerobic respiration. So if there is less aerobic respiration, there is less energy released. So there will be less growth, or you can say less reproduction of the microorganisms. So for the 3 marks, you had to give me all those points. That number 1, there will be less oxygen. So the bacteria and fungi now cannot, bacteria, or you can say fungi, or you can say microorganisms, or you can say decomposers, will respire less, or you can even say no respiration. Because if you added carbon dioxide in excess and there was no less oxygen, so then there's not going to be a lot of aerobic respiration. So if there is no aerobic respiration, then there is going to be no growth, or there is less aerobic respiration, there's going to be less growth and less reproduction of the microorganisms. So less decomposition of this fruit. So it's not going to decompose, it's going to have a longer shelf life. So this is exactly the wordings that we are going to use. Bacteria and fungi, you can say bacteria, you can say fungi, you can say microorganisms, you can say decomposers, will not be able to respire aerobically. So there's 1 mark for respiration, there's 1 mark for aerobic. So if you write no aerobic respiration or less aerobic respiration in one sentence, you will get 2 marks. So less energy released, so less growth. I've explained it to you why less respiration. Less respiration, less energy released, so less growth, or you can say less reproduction of the microorganisms. Then coming to part 3, it says suggest 2 advantages of slowing down the decomposition of packaged food. Now naturally it's going to stay longer on the shelves in the shops in Al Fatah or in Jalalsan or someplace, and there will be less wastage of it. And there is a very important economic reason for that. The economic reason is that the fruit which is planted by the farmer, and then if it's collected and then it's sold in the market, if he doesn't get enough money, then how is the farm going to survive? The farm is going to close down. And there's less risk of, you see, if it's not decomposed, then if somebody buys this fruit and then eats it in a decomposing state, then he's going to get an upset stomach. So if he's going to get it in the good shape and it's not going to be decomposed, then there is a less risk of food poisoning or getting an upset stomach. Now I've given you the wordings for it, and wherever I put a slash like this, it means either you said longer time stays fresh, or you said longer time stays on the shelf, or you can say longer time because it takes time to transport it before eating, so it will remain fresh. Number two is less wastage. Number three is economic reasons, because this fruit has been supplied by the farmer. The farmer has taken a lot of time, the crop has matured, and then he is selling it in the market. So he must get some money for it, otherwise the farm will close down. And less risk of food poisoning or an upset stomach, because if you eat decomposed fruit or vegetable, well, you're going to get an upset stomach because you're eating all those bacteria and fungi along with that decomposing food. You don't actually eat decomposing fruit. Now, coming to question number two, describe physical digestion in humans and explain its importance. And please remember, this for 4 marks. Always look at the marks and then decide how many points you're going to give me. So, you're going to give me 5 or 6 points, because at least if you have not worded it correctly, you get your 4 out of 4. Everybody can get 4 out of 4 in this. We have got 7 mark scheme points. The first mark scheme point is makes food into smaller pieces. But there's no chemical change. It just makes food into smaller pieces. Physical digestion means just breaking up the food into smaller pieces, and there is no chemical change. Number two, chewing, or you can say the teeth are going to grind the food. Then this is going to help in the swallowing of the food, third mark scheme point. Then this fourth is increases the surface area of the food. Fifth is so that then the enzymes can chemically digest the food. They can't work on a large piece of food, but they can work on tiny pieces of food so that the enzyme action takes place quickly and the food is digested quickly. But that has to happen after the physical digestion. Then all this food is going to be carried from the back of the throat to the stomach by peristalsis, where the stomach is going to churn it, and then it's going to mix with the enzymes and the HCl in the stomach. So 7 mark scheme points, and any 4 out of these would have got you your 4 out of 4. Now, how do we exactly word this? Makes food into smaller pieces and no chemical change. Then teeth help in chewing and grinding the food, then helps in swallowing the food. This increases the surface area of the food, and this is going to facilitate chemical digestion or the effect of enzymes. And then peristalsis is going to churn the food in the stomach, and then it mixes the food with the enzymes. Then we come to the next part of the question. State the name of the chemical present in the stomach that kills many ingested bacteria. Because the food, you will automatically have a lot of bacteria and fungi on it because it's exposed to the air. So basically it's the HCl, or you can say hydrochloric acid if you want to write the whole of it. You can write both is allowed in the Cambridge mark scheme. So hydrochloric acid or HCl will get you the mark for it. Bacteria that are not killed in the stomach may cause disease. State the term used to describe organisms that cause disease. That is called a pathogen. If you ever go into a laboratory where urine and blood are tested, that's called a pathology lab. And you study pathology in the third year in medical college. I'm not sure if you do it now, but I remember when I did my medicine, I did it in the third year in my medical school. So organism that cause disease is called a pathogen. That's the only mark and that's the only word. So that's why in the mark schemes it's underlined, which means it's an essential mark scheme point and you cannot use any other word for it. Then the type of immunity gained after infection by organisms that cause disease is called active immunity. It's actually, if you develop a disease, then it's called natural active immunity. So the type of immunity is active immunity, and that gets you your 2 marks. More specifically, is after infection is natural active immunity. Then coming to the C part of the question, disease can be caused by viruses. Yellow fever is an example of a disease caused by a virus. Outline how a weakened form of the virus that causes yellow fever can be used to give a person long time immunity against the disease. So first of all, what you do is you do vaccination. So if you just wrote vaccination done, well, you got a mark for that. even though you didn't understand what vaccination is. And what do we do in the vaccination? We say this is the virus which causes yellow fever and has these antigens on its surface. So antigens on the virus is recognized as foreign. So in a vaccine, what you do is you get the weakened or the dead virus, which has antigens, and these viruses recognize this as foreign. And then the lymphocytes make antibodies against it. The lymphocytes make antibodies against it. Antibodies is something like this. Actually, we usually show them like something like this. We don't show them like this, but I'm just trying to show you it's like a Y-shaped structure which is going to fit onto the antigen. So antigens in the virus recognize as foreign, and the lymphocytes produce antibodies. Now these are the antibodies, and the antibodies will attach to the antigen. So if this is the antigen, the antibody will attach to the antigen and destroy it. And this will result in the production of memory cells. And when the next time the real virus enters, then the person will not get the disease. So vaccination done, antigens on the virus recognized as foreign, then lymphocytes produce antibodies. So if you just wrote lymphocytes produce antibodies, you got 2 marks. 1 mark for lymphocytes, the other mark for produce antibodies. So in one sentence, you can get 2 marks. And thus the memory cells are formed, which of course remember that, okay, well, this is that bad guy whom we had seen before. And then when again this virus enters, then the lymphocytes immediately will make antibodies and destroy the virus, and you will not suffer from the disease. Question number 3. The nervous system coordinates and regulates body functions. Figure 3.1 shows diagrams, each showing parts of the nervous system in a human. Diagram A and diagram B. Describe the parts of the nervous system shown in each diagram. And this is, please remember, describe the parts of the nervous system shown in each diagram. So why are there 4 marks for this? Basically, describe the parts of the nervous system shown in the diagram. So diagram A is the central nervous system. You can write that as CNS, or you can write the whole of it central nervous system. You can write the whole of it if you want to, or you can just write CNS, that is standard abbreviation. And what is it made up of? It is made of the brain and the spinal cord. It is made of the brain and the spinal cord, right? Now the diagram B is the peripheral nervous system. It is made up of nerves, or you can say neurons outside the central nervous system. So peripheral nervous system, so diagram B is the peripheral nervous system, or you can say PNS, and it is made of nerves or the neurons outside the CNS, which is of course the sensory neurons or the motor neurons. Part B of the question, figure 3.2 shows the junction between two neurons, relay neuron, sensory neuron, vesicle containing neurotransmitter, not transmitter molecules, not to scale, name the junction. That's called synapse. Then it says draw an arrow, figure 3.2, to show the direction that an impulse will travel. This is always so it's going to be in this direction. Why? Because the vesicles are always in this direction, and the vesicles then will exocytosis, and then we release the chemical, and that will go and bind. So this will be the presynaptic neuron, and this will be the postsynaptic neuron, because the vesicles are always in the presynaptic neuron. Draw an arrow to show the direction. So this gets you your 1 mark. Synapse gets you 1 mark. Then it says the distance between the two neurons shown is 0.00003 millimeter. State this distance in units of micrometer. That will be 0.03. That will be 0.03. Why? Because you see 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeter, and 1 millimeter is equal to 1000 micrometer. So you have to just move it 0.040 millimeter. So you have to multiply it by 1000. So this is the basic working of it. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeter, 1 millimeter is equal to 1000 micrometer, and so you have to multiply it by 1,000. Then coming to the C part of the question, nicotine is a chemical found in cigarette smoke. A molecule of nicotine has a similar shape to a molecule of neurotransmitter. Suggest and explain the effect of nicotine at the junctions between the neurons. So if it's the same as acetylcholine, where the nicotine will bind or block the receptor, and this receptor is actually a protein receptor, and an impulse will be produced in the next neuron. So 3 marks. If it is going to be the same shape as the neurotransmitter, then it's going to bind or block the receptor on the postsynaptic membrane or on the relay neuron, and this is a receptor protein, and this will result in an impulse being generated which will travel along the postsynaptic neuron or the relay neuron. So nicotine will bind to the receptor protein, that will get you 2 marks on the postsynaptic membrane of the relay neuron, and impulse will be generated more frequently. Question 4. Lake Washington in the United States of America is a large freshwater lake. Between 1941 and 1963, an increasing amount of untreated sewage polluted the lake. Suggest and explain the effect of this untreated sewage on the lake system, and look at it is 5 marks. So the first thing we know is eutrophication, and sewage contains nitrates and phosphates, so these result in the growth of more plants, or you can say producers, or you can say algae. And then of course these producers, because there are too much of them and there are not enough animals to eat them, so they die and they fall to the bottom of the pond. So the death of the producers or the death of the algae, and then these producers are decomposed by the bacteria in the pond or in the freshwater lake, and the number of bacteria increase very drastically. So from 10 million they will become 20 million and then 40 million. And this, of course, these bacteria are respiring and they are using up the oxygen. So this is going to reduce the oxygen in the water, and this is going to result in the death of the fish or the death of the animals which are in the freshwater lake. So eutrophication, then the sewage will result, contains a lot of nitrates and phosphates, so this will result in the growth of plants or algae. Then these plants, there are not enough animals to eat these plants, so the algae die. Then the algae are decomposed by bacteria. The bacteria increase in number. The bacteria respire and they reduce the oxygen in the water, and this results in the death of the animals or the fish. Now coming to the later part of the question, between 1963 and 1968. So that means it's about uh, 5 years. New sewage treatment facilities were constructed. In 1968, the amount of untreated sewage entering Lake Washington was reduced to zero. Figure 4.1 shows how the transparency of water in the lake has changed over time. Water transparency is a measure of how far light travels through the water. So water transparency in meters. In 1957, it was transparent of how many meters? 1, 2, 3, 4 meters. Then it was transparent to, so it's increasing. It was the transparent to 4 meters. Now it was transparent to 8 meters. Then 1975, it was transparent to 5 meters. And then in 2005, it was transparent to 7 meters. Calculate the percentage increase in water transparency between 57 and 68 and space for working. So it was 5. No, it was, what was it here? No, it wasn't 5, sorry. It was 0 to 1, so it's 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So 0.8 here, and then 1957, and then 1968, it was 3.0. How do you calculate the percentage increase? So in 57, it was 0.8, and then in 68, it was 3.0. So this is what here, 68 here, and 0.8 here. And this is 68 and this is 57. So 3.0 minus 0.8 is 2.2. So 2.2 divided by the original, which was 0.8, into 100, and this is equal to 275. So this was 275%. So how do we do it? The original, final, subtract it, and then over the original into 100. This gives you the percentage increase. From zero point 0.8 it went down to 3.0. So the difference over the original, which was 0.8 into 100. One species of fish that lives in Lake Washington is the three-spined stickleback. Figure 4.2 shows three different distribution of patterns of armor plates on the skin of these fish. No armor plates, medium number of armor plates, and many armor plates. Table 4.1 shows how the distribution pattern of armor plates on the skin of three-spined sticklebacks have changed over time. So the low number, medium number, and many number. So percentage of fish with each distribution. In 1957, the low number were 91, the medium were 9, and then the many were 0. Then 1968, 69, so this has decreased, and then from this has increased, and this has again increased. Then this has decreased further, this has increased, and this has increased. But look at the sharp increase and the gradual increase. This has decreased again, this remains the same, and this has increased again. Now they've given you a lot of data, and this is actually the new syllabus, is that you have to analyze data. This is preparing you for the A-level paper 5, which if you decide to take A-levels, fine. If you don't, well, then that's the end of biology. So they're going to ask you something on this data now. Use the data from table 4.1 to describe how the distribution patterns of armor plates have changed over time. And this is 4 marks. So all you have to do is look at the table 4.1 and then answer this question. Let's see it again. So low plates decreases. This makes sense. Low plates decreases. Many plates increases. This one, many plates increases. From 1957 to 1975, medium plates increases. From 1975 to 2005, medium plates are constant. This is the time when the medium plates, 1975 to 2005, they are constant. Low plates from highest to lowest percentage of stickleback population. So low plates are from highest to lowest was 91 to 16 percentage of stickleback population. Many plates went up from 0 to 49% of stickleback population. So it is just what you see and what is seen in the table, you just write about that. You are not going to come up with any explanations. Why? Because it is a describe. Describe is no biology. Just describe means a simple what you describe a graph, describe a table, describe some diagram or something like that. So you don't have to give me any bio, you just have to describe it. So now I'm just look at how I worded it. Low plates decreases, many plates increases. From 57 to 75, medium plate increases. From 75 to 2005, medium plates constant. Low plates 91% to 16%. Many plates from 0 to 49%. So what does this tell you? This tell you, first of all, generally look at the trend. Low plates is decreasing, many plates is increasing. Then okay, then give me a point where they are constant. Then give me some figures. From 57 to 75, medium plates increases. Then low plates 91% decreased, low plates from 91% to 16%. So if you said low plate decreases and then you said low plates 91% to 16%, well, you got 2 marks for that. So you look at the decrease, you look at the increase, and you look at where it is constant. And then you give me figures for that and you give me the trend. So and so increases, so and so decreases. Then coming to part 2, uh, which is the end of the question. Armor plates on the skin of a three-spined stickleback protected from predators. Describe how the process of natural selection may have caused these changes in the distribution of plates over time. Now, as you all know, for natural selection, there's some things which you have to write in there's a certain format. And if you just remember it, any question on natural selection, you just have to write the same thing. Number 1, there's variation. Number 2, there is mutation. Number 3, there's increased water transparency, so more visible to predators. Then more plates, less predation. Then produce offsprings, or you can say reproductive success, produce offspring, produce and go into the next generation. Pass on the better characteristics, or you can say pass on the alleles of many plates onto the next generation. So how do we word this? Variation is already present, there is mutation or there's a genetic change, and this is because there is increased water transparency. So some of the fish are more visible to predators, and more plates is less predated, or you can say it is better adapted or fittest. Then, of course, the ones which are not predated will reproduce and result to produce the next generation, and this will pass on the better characteristics or many plates to their offsprings. So that is the end of this question, and I think we're going to stop the video here and we'll continue the rest of the questions in the next video. And thank you very much.